Hi, my friend. Welcome back to Healing Together, a YouTube channel dedicated to God stories in our lives. I hope you have been enjoying the story of Ken Chupp. I know it's hard to rate it in a way that's enjoying it when he lost Diane. It has been a hard last episode. If you've watched episode 2, it's been a real challenge to listen as he suffered through not only losing Diane, but also 3 surgeries and disappointments and job loss and all of that comes on sometimes when Satan just attacks so greatly. I hope that you have listened well, and I hope that you have retained some of it, because the next 2 episodes, this one and the one to come, is going to be so powerful because we know what he's been through, and we're going to, as he explains some of the things coming out of it, it's going to be extremely great. Today we turn a corner and we see God fulfill some of the needs that Ken so acutely feels in his life. It is so awesome how a God note comes to him through another friend, and that supplies him with another very special young lady. Going to get to meet her today, and it is going to be phenomenal. I am reminded of Psalms 127 that says, unless God builds a house, the laborers labor in vain. The builders labor in vain. I'm reminded of that scripture as I listen. And so think of that as we listen to Ken. Come along as we hear Ken meet Sandy, and we meet Sandy, and we get to hear the story of how they met and their first date. Let's see what they have to say. Well, I was going to use that into a lead-in, but you've been blessed with 2 special ladies.
I have been, yes.
So tell me how you met Sandy. That's the laugh I was looking for.
So, I always have a plan. And I've heard that it's good to tell God your plans because he needs a good laugh. I had a plan. I had made a commitment that I was going to wear my wedding ring for a year, and I was not going to date for a year. And I just had it in my head that once that year was up, that I would contact somebody and bada boom, bada bing, things would happen, we'd get married. Well, that didn't happen. Part of the problem was that I had, during that time frame, had
3 surgeries.
3 surgeries. Mm-hmm. And I was a little incapacitated during that time. And so I had a couple people in mind, and I contacted them, and it didn't work. So I was praying about going on eHarmony. I had this thought that if I go on eHarmony, just like that, because so many people I know were on eHarmony, there was no. And it wasn't going well. And there was a lady who had been my assistant for 11 years, and she served as my dating mentor. She would translate female for me. So when I would say, hey, and the lady said this to me. She said, oh, that means this. Oh, it does. So, she would do all that translation for me. And so I was telling her about my frustration with eHarmony. And she said, well, how long you been on it? I don't know, a month or so. So why don't you get off of there, give God a month or so, and see what he does? And I thought, that sounds like good advice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did. I canceled that account. I had a couple other accounts, canceled all of them, and I was okay, God, what are you going to do? And I was at a prayer retreat with, 40 or 50 other pastors. And there was a point in that retreat when they said, what are your personal needs? Not the need of your church, what your personal needs. And so I said, I'm single, and I'm lonely, and I'm looking for a wife, and I'm frustrated, just can't find one. And a man prayed for me more passionately than anyone has ever prayed for me in my entire life. His name's Paul Metzger. And about 10 years before that, he was in the same situation I was in. So he understood where I was at. And probably 30, 40 minutes later, as I'm walking out of that room, a pastor friend of mine, Bud Walterhouse, said to me,
I know, Bud.
I don't know if this is a word from God or not, but Sandy Bixel. I said, who's Sandy Bixel? And later we were talking about this, and he said it was like God gave him a note, and he had to give me that note. And he said, well, you know Denny and Sarah. And I knew Denny and Sarah. Denny had been my accountability partner for a couple years. A while before that, their son and my son were best friends. Yeah, I knew Denny and Sarah. Well, that's Sarah's sister. Oh, really? So, being a good Christian, I went back to my room and stalked her on Facebook and found out that we'd gone to college together. And I didn't remember her name, but I remembered that smiling face from when I went to Bethel College. And I was married at the time, so I remembered her, but...
So, Sandy, where were you all of his life?
Well, I was waiting for him. I was 54, never been married, always desired marriage, but it just never was what God had for me at that point. I remember going to college thinking I was going to went to a Christian college, going to come away with an MRS degree.
Yep.
I didn't get an MRS degree, and and I can remember actually the year that I met Ken. I just sensed that God was doing a new work in my life, and he put like three. Some people have words that they think about throughout the year, or have a word for the year. Well, I had 4 words, and it was worship, watch, and wait. I guess 3 words: worship, watch, and wait. And I just kept thinking of those words, thinking, Lord, what are you going to do in my life? What do you have for me? And I don't want to be anxious. I just want to wait and see what you're going to do. And I had seasons of my life that the desire to be married was stronger than others. I can remember when I was 25 and all my friends were getting married. I've married off lots of roommates, and I always had to move because they got married, and I had to find another roommate, and so those were hard times just because it was unsettling. And I thought, Lord, what do you have for me? And you go through times, when you get into your 30s and you desire to have children, and you see that clock ticking, and that's not going to happen. But God has been faithful to I think, burn in me that I can be content in him. And even now that I'm married, I love Ken dearly, and it's beautiful. I'm very grateful. But you still have to think about how I need to be content even in this season. You know, life has changed drastically for me in the 3 years that we've been married. I was, like I said, single for 54 years. All of a sudden, when I said I do, I'm a pastor's wife, a grandma. They call me Grandy. And what else am I? A wife. So, you know, just got a lot of new roles, a lot of new titles with that decision. Prior to, I mean, way back in my life, God was faithful throughout that life, my earlier life too. When I was 4, I accepted Christ into my life. I remember, you know, a singing evangelist for children came. He was all dressed up in a uniform, and he came, and obviously at 4 you don't know exactly the decision that you're making, but I didn't want to go to heaven. I didn't want to go to hell, so I signed my name on the dotted line in a way. And always grew up in a Christian home, lived a good life, was a pretty compliant child. At 12, my dad was a haul-away truck driver, was driving down I-75, had a massive heart attack, no warning signs at all of heart issues or anything. Crossed 4 lanes of traffic. God protected that. He had 9 new trucks on his load. Nothing was injured, but he was dead on arrival. And so obviously that kind of threw our family in a
Absolutely,
yeah, we're wondering what's going on. But I can say now that my mom, even watching her life, she never remarried. She was single as a widow for all those years then. But watching how she responded to that situation prepared me for singleness, you know, for most of my life as well. And God just over and over has been so faithful to our family. Thankfully, none of us have really gotten bitter over that decision when we had an autopsy done on my dad, because it was a shock. Like, what's wrong here? What's going on? Obviously, in those years, they didn't check for cholesterol like they do now and things like that. But the autopsy report said he had a heart like a 99-year-old man. Didn't know how in the world he was even functioning. And so he was a go-getter. And so my mom says, even that was the Lord's provision. He would have drove us all crazy. He had to stay put, you know. And so he didn't have to worry about that. The Lord just took him home. And yeah, that's...
Siblings?
I do have, we have 4 kids and 5, my parents had 4 kids in 5 years.
Okay.
So we're all pretty close. I'm the youngest of 4.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
yeah.
Nice. So I'm going to let you start, since Ken's done all the talking. How did you hear about Ken? How was the first date set up?
Well, it's kind of an interesting situation because he told his pastor friends, he was humbled before them and said, I need prayer. I'm lonely. Probably about that same night, that same time frame, I was in a small group at my church with a group of friends that we are accountable to each other. We share our deepest needs. And in that season, I was just really lonely in a sense, or really desiring marriage. But I thought, I can't share that prayer request tonight. It's just, they're going to think, oh, not again, you know. And so I didn't share. We were even talking in our lesson that night about being too prideful to ask for prayer. But I didn't listen. I just thought, no, I can't do that. And as we were in that session, or in that small group, I got a text from my sister, and she said, I know you're at small group, but call me when you get home, nothing urgent. So I called her, and she says, Sandy, I know you hate doing this, but do you remember Ken Chupp? There's, you know, Bud Walterhouse
Yes.
is the one that gave Ken the note is my sister's brother-in-law.
Okay.
So there's a
Okay.
family connection that way. And she said, "Would you be even open to meeting him?" And I said, "Well, I guess," thinking I've had these blind dates before, and but never say never. You just never know. So we arranged it so they had Sarah and Denny, my sister and brother-in-law, had us over for dessert on a Friday night. I think it was like 8:00 we met. We left at 1:45 that morning. And we just sat around the kitchen table and talked and laughed and shared stories, and it was very comfortable. Then, like Ken says, as the rest is history, in a sense. That was in March, and then we were engaged in June and married in November.
Okay.
We got married on Thanksgiving Day.
Oh, nice.
Just with small, just our family, intimate little ceremony, but we wanted to give God praise and thanks for His working in our life.
Absolutely. Awesome.
That's wonderful.
Ken, what about you? What did you think after you got that note?
I was nervous. I was very nervous, and I wanted to make a good impression, and my nerves didn't last real long. But yeah, my brain went dead there. I was nervous before I met Sandy, but that didn't last long into the evening. But we were just talking, and I had looked at the clock, and I couldn't really read the clock right. And wait, what time is it? I can't tell. But it felt like we'd been there a while. And then somebody said something about the time. Well, oh my word, it's 2:00. So, yeah.
And it was kind of awkward because, it's our first meeting.
Yeah.
I saw the clock right in front of me, and I knew my sister and brother, they're not late night people, really. And I thought, how are we going to end this? Because Ken had his back to the clock, so he wasn't going to necessarily see the clock. And I thought, how are we going to end this? But I was getting tired. I mean, you're getting tired.
Sure,
It's just,
sure.
So finally I said, this has been a wonderful evening, but I think I need to leave, or so, but.
So that was March, and you were engaged in June. I want to ask you a question, Ken. Any guilt with Diane? I'm a married man.
There wasn't guilt. I had a commitment to Diane, and that commitment was till death do us part. The first wedding I did after Diane's death, I was leading the couple through their vows, and when I had to say the words in their vows, till death do us part, I could barely get those out. And that was hard because they had no idea the commitment they're making to each other. I knew what that meant. And I had lived that. And so Diane and I fulfilled our commitment to each other. And so, no, there wasn't guilt. But, and I think a lot of that is due to Sandy. On our first date together, just the two of us, I told her, I have 2 problems. Now, if you know me well, you know there's dozens actually. But I said I have 2 problems. Number 1, I talk too much. And number two, I talk too much about my first wife. And that's going to be really awkward. And she interrupted me. And she said, no, you were married to her for almost 38 years. She's part of your life. It's okay.
Mhm.
And that changed. No, I didn't have to be careful about that. No, don't talk about Diane around Sandy. And I never had to do that. In fact, this last April 11th on Diane's birthday, Sandy said at supper, so why don't you tell me some of your favorite stories about Diane? And so I would tell, some of my favorite stories. That's an amazing thing for me, that Sandy is that confident in who she is, that I can share that part, and my kids and my grandkids can talk about their mom, their Nana, and Sandy is okay with that. And in fact, Sandy is reaping the benefit of a wife that helped get me fixed up. You know what I mean? Diane did a lot of work on me over the years.
So I think I need to thank Diane.
Well, that's where we're going to end it for the day. I know it's so hard to just make that cut right there. It's so difficult to know exactly where to cut these. And we saw as we listened today how God put Ken and Sandy together, and how God prepared for 54 years Ken for Sandy. It's really good. And you heard her say right at the end, I think I have to thank Diane. And it's so true. And you will not believe, even deeper still, the love that is there for Sandy by Diane and by her family and by Ken. And it's just going to be a very, very powerful last episode. So make sure that you are here next time to hear the story as it wraps up. Ken will share some insights, and he will share again what we have heard so many times on Healing Together, that if he had the opportunity to not go through what he went through, and it cost him what he has learned of the Lord, he would not opt out of the last 7 years. So please get ready. Watch these series again. Watch the other ones if you haven't. Again, hit that like and subscribe button. This helps us to get the stories out there. And so share it on your media pages. This could be the next to the last video for just a little while. I have more interviews done, but as I make this video right here, the end of this video and the entrance and exit for the next one that I'll do in just a moment, I am preparing to go in for surgery tomorrow morning. And so I don't know what that's going to take place. I'm having a knee replacement. So it's been a long time since I've had any surgeries. So as you go, pray for Ken and Sandy. It is not easy to come in here and sit in our living room and share your heart. And Ken has done a marvelous job. Sandy has done a marvelous job. And so please, thank you for stopping by. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Please share it on your social media pages. Tell somebody about it. Invite them to come and be a part of our community. Thank you so much for stopping by. God bless.